Welcome to my presentation. Welcome to the OWASP track. I cannot see most of your faces. Let me ask you whether, so put your hand if you are a developer. Wagen, you are not. But yes, okay. And whom of you does audits, security audits? Okay. Because today I will criticize developers, but actually I would be same critical to auditors. But today this OWASP track is about developers. The Untrustable developers, as the title of the slide says. Well, interesting, organizers call these speeches lectures, so I will tell you my lecture. Actually, sometimes I have to read out what I prepared, because half of my presentation is brand new, so I don't know by heart what to tell. And so forgive me for this. My name is Timur. I'm the leader of the OWASP Hungary chapter, despite my being Russian. I started and finished my developer career in the last century, and the last decade I ran an ISV, and a software company. We developed innovative access management and that identity management software for enterprises, especially for financial sector. And now I do cybersecurity consulting because it sounds good or cool. I also finished my PhD in a few years ago. It was about dispositions, not IT at all. Dispositions and social constructs. In short, it was about that we are all zombies, and even we are zombies when we are executive managers. So, I have to introduce you OWASP. I'm the first presenter of OWASP track. OWASP is OWASP. It's an open web application security project, or more exactly, projects. It's .org. It's open source or open. It's not for money, except the donations made by members and companies. The most famous project of OWASP is Top 10. But please remember, it cannot be used in production. It's an educational thing. And it is not a standard. So don't use it as a standard when you do audits. If you do audits, then use ASVS, the verification standard, as a standard that can be used in production. And use developer guides, well, if you are a developer. And there are many tools assisting developers and auditors. Just to mention two, TAP is a famous web application audit tool, and one of our new tools is dependency check. Its name says what it does, and it supports Java, .NET, and Python. So this is the title of my presentation. The Untrustable Developer, or developers. The QR code points to the URL, which holds my presentation, and it will appear on the next slide also. So my point is, and let's face it, that general developers will never care about security. Of course, this picture does not represent what I think about developers, but it tells a lot about the crowd whom we call coders. And I would include the coders management to this crowd. And coders will produce security only as a byproduct, according to their gut practices, or their gut practice. And so coders will never care about security. And we have lost the war for secure software because hackers won, because software contains vulnerabilities anyway. And this is the state of production today. Today I focus on developers and blame the developer culture for vulnerabilities, but there are several other root causes, like complexity, complicity, yours also, mismanagement, immature methodologies, and lack of robots in audits. On top of this criticism, I would like to be constructive. My main concern is not the crowd, or not the coders. My main concern, the way to improve the more demanding developers, and the solution I vote for today is secure coding. Well, yes, there will be no surprise in my presentation. It's a little bit boring what I'm saying. Okay, application security concept. Application security, my point is that application security is about quality assurance. Quality assurance of the product and quality assurance of the process, the production process. And since software is not a product, but a service, the quality of the support process is also as important as the production is. Application security starts with threat modeling or risk modeling. This is an important statement. Don't do audits without risk modeling. In enterprise, the application security policy is the set of the main rules of game is very important, and the software development lifecycle methodologies are the other thing that are important in enterprise. And since applications are hackable anyway and cannot be trusted, the countermeasures like web application, firewalls, and log audits and stuff like that is very important. And here's, at this conference, speaking about the importance of audit and testing is obvious. Well, let's be fair. Developers does what they are paid for, and that is written in some specification. So probably if we feed requirements, application security requirements into the black box of development, then we will have application security as the output. Is it this simple? Yes? Please explain your point of view.
Timo, application security is a set of features. in my perspective, application security is a set of features. Some of these are non-functional requirements, some are functional. Some are easy to test. A functional requirement's relatively easy to test. Some are very difficult to test. That's a non-functional requirement. But at the end of the day, using a standard like ASVS, the Application Security Verification Standard, you can give developers about 150 requirements that will radically improve application security.
Thank you, Jim. I do not agree with you fully, because developers have a different skill set and mindset. And in order to think about threats, you have to have a security mindset. So developing black box, or developers will not produce application security in this respect. But it's a good argument to go through. It's just for moving your attention. So, untrustable quality is the problem. The production that we cannot trust in terms of security quality. Developers produce vulnerabilities. This is the state of the industry. And Jim, back to our leftist background, you cannot blame homeless people for their situation, because that is a product of society. So we are all responsible for the state of our industry today. Speaking of the crowd, whom I represent by this slide, made by an artist from deviantart.com. So, speaking about the crowd of coders, it's, they are actually not lost. And back to the Jim statement, if you feed requirements, then they can produce application security. I would say that we can embed application security into their mechanical practice, into their gut practice, or let's name it tacit practice, which is in this case means that developers do not deliberately aim to achieve security, but they use proper solutions automatically, and then application security is created. Like when you use Angular, sanitization is given in most cases. Let's say it's another way. You can program people to program properly. But really, I'm not interested today in my presentation today with these mediocre developers. My key question is, how should we support the more demanding, I would say, professional part of developers to advance with the security quality? And let's take a quick look regarding the root causes of the poor state of the application security. Of course, first of all, in my opinion, it's complexity. So software today is too complex. It is a given. Behind the simple interfaces, we have spaghetti of code. We have spaghetti of systems. But spaghetti, but complexity and spaghetti is not the same thing. And developers are who make complexity into, keep complexity in spaghetti state. This photo is from the Scrum article of the English Wikipedia, and these nice guys are at daily sprint meeting, what is pictured here, and I look at them as that part of developers that I'm speaking about today, the developed professional people. Complicity. The decisions about the production that define the production process at enterprise are made at tables with several players. And this decision making or I would say agreeing process defines the general quality of the software. And everyone is a conspirator in the poor state of security today who has a stake at this game. So, for example, if as a pen tester or auditor, you think that your mission is to provide a report, you are not contribute to the involvement of the security, because as an auditor today you must promote that your findings are processed by developers. You must be part of it. Of course, the root cause is mismanagement of application security, or security leaders does not respect efforts of design and testing. Legal does not know how to set security requirements, and application security managers have to be involved in the development processes. And also, leaders have to know when to include application security specialists into the process of development. And this picture, this still is from the Ex Machina movie. It's because I was to show my point that the major breakthrough in application security I would expect from pen testing robots who knows the business logic of application. So the state of auditing, the state of testing today is immature, and it has to advance in order to improve the application security. Also, regarding methodologies, the problem is that vulnerability audits as a business took a controversial approach by selling pen tests wherever possible. Actually, there were times when we had trusted developers at 70s, and at that time, programmers were an educated people and, let's say, select part of engineering culture. And the software, of course, that at that time was not that complex, but we could trust these people for their product in terms of security quality. There was such thing like trusted computer system. Now it sounds like sci-fi. Actually, there was a thing for it called an Orange Book. Orange Book, it also sounds like a thing of Harry Potter. Today, you cannot expect developers to achieve a desired level of insurance because the probability of bugs is too high. So we trust no one, and despite so there are different kinds of threats. And the problem is that threats come and go, but the probability of exploitable bugs remain. Because of lack of time, I wouldn't pay more attention on the social construct nature of security, and that the notion of trust can be approached by this postmodern view of the established meaning of things. One thing about it, that today's threats is best business. So creating threats or inventing threats and inventing countermeasures is the best business. If you follow Schneier, then you know that airport security, as it established today, is a good example of it. So we trust notions, and in trust, it is important to trust constructs. mental constructs about the world. So you trust OpenVPN. Why do you trust OpenVPN? Do you know who the people are behind it? Marketing people, actually. And you trust Google, you trust Apple, and you trust security gurus. So we trusted the open software community. We believed in the quality assurance of open source software, and we trusted the fiction of OpenSSL. And Matthew Green could not break a hole on this comfort, but by stating that it's written by monkeys. Actually, it's not what he said. He told a more correct thing, and later. Actually, at the enterprise, the state of application security is just the same. We have spaghetti of code. We had patchwork everywhere, and the tendency to reproduce bad application security. So, why do we expect these guys? These guys are demanding professionals. Why do we expect them to deliver proper security? They do their job professionally, but do they do how to do, for example, authorization properly? Probably it's not their competence. How the pattern, how to implement it. My question would be, well, three questions would be: why don't they take secure coding trainings? Why don't they appoint a person to represent the security issue at their Scrum meetings? I mean, who is just to ask whether the new feature, the change, the decision may have security implications, just to synchronize the development process with security? Why don't they call a visiting security specialist to participate in the critical moment of the development lifecycle, just from time to time, on schedule or on demand? That would be the advertisement part of my presentation. Please take a look, but because of the lack of time, I wouldn't stop to speak about it. So, proactive controls, probably Jim would say some words about it. ASVS, the most important project in my view.
Which is a list of requirements, by the way.
Yeah. And another important part, it makes you do risk modeling and makes you think about the proper audit for that actual software or circumstances this software is in. So the rule of 40-20-40, it is about that the proportion of efforts devoted to design and testing correlates with the software quality and correlates with the security quality. So in ideal, the major part of professional effort should be paid for design and testing, say 40%, and only 20% should go to coding and other activities. And of course, any AppSec job has to start with threat modeling, including design. And so I'm voting for secure coding courses. Jim, please express your support for my saying that secure coding courses are the most important thing for developers.
Just a second.
In all seriousness, if you do it wrong, it's going to hurt you more than help. If you do it right, communicate in the developer's language, talk about secure requirements. I mean, if you approach this as a security professional, you're going to fail. If you approach this as a developer talking to developers, you have a chance of success. So even though I do this for a living, I'm not going to say it's the most important thing. It's one of many important things to build a full application security program. Is that fair?
Jim, thank you. Golden words, and especially that you have to be a developer to talk to developers, because the most prominent problem today of application security, actually, Jim took a lot of my time, so I will go my minutes. So one of you can leave, Jim. But yes, what you said is one of the main concepts, and that developers talk to developers. Because I think that one of the major problems today is the attitude of the auditors. So your attitude as auditors is one of the major problems to blame today. Whereas if you do secure coding courses as a developer, and with this attitude and with this mindset, with this knowledge, it would be one of the main measures to improve the security quality of developers you teach. And one of important things is that professionals like learning. Professionals does not like when your report says that developers were stupid again, but professionals like learning. And it is a bonus for professionals to go to courses and workshops. The security coding courses are not boring, especially if done by Jim. And security problems are fun to review. And such topics as crypto are interesting, aren't they?
I'm sorry, Timur?
Yeah?
I don't want to take up any of your time. Keep going.
No. I think that we are entertaining people, so please.
I would not. If I was to say you have to take my training, I'd be an arrogant jerk and no one should ever listen to me. There's many people who do training. All I'm saying is, whoever does it, don't bring in security theory bullshit. Talk about factual developer techniques in the developer's language, and you will win. You get into deep, what I call security theory bullshit. You're going to waste their time, and you're not going to accomplish the goals you want. So I try to bring security down to a list of useful requirements when I can, and technical terms that's developer-centric, not security-centric, and it tends to be an easier way to communicate. This is just normal human communication. When you want to talk to someone, the best thing you can do is understand how they communicate and talk to them in that way. The same thing works in training. Training is just a specialized form of communication. In all seriousness, Timo, that's all I'm trying to say. And of course I think it's extremely important, but I would not be so arrogant to say it's the most important thing. That's very debatable.
Okay. Our experience in making secure coding courses is that people, especially in Eastern Europe, where developers sometimes has a strong engineering background, they like the crypto topic, and they like this engineering stuff also. And in particular, we have good experience with when to deliver secure coding trainings that are adopted to the language and to the framework of that particular developer's team. So if you do as a developer secure trainings or developer and security expert trainings, and that actual language or framework like Java, .NET, Node.js, then the involvement of the developers is much more positive. And the labs, then hands-on part, if it prevails, it's also an important thing. And I know that Jim agrees with me at that point. I would say, in addition to the secure coding training, you can do another two practical things: the coaching sessions and the review of findings, of audit findings. Especially when the experience of the training is fresh and you as an auditor can show your findings and compare the course with the findings made at the software of that developer team, it works well. So you can face the developers with real vulnerabilities of their code, then theory and reality connects. It has to be the auditor's initiative to review the findings with the developers. And again, auditors has to have a cooperative attitude in this case. And auditors, security auditors, most of the times lack this cooperative attitude. Speaking about developer coaching, it is that specialist, auditor, or a trainer can sit together with the developer and review his code hands-on, and it's more involving than a prepared lab exercise. So reviewing the findings, the training and coaching works better together. It's, well, you can use the word synergy for it. So security training on itself does not work very well unless it is connected to the reality of that concrete developer team. Another thing, it's an advertisement of OWASP. It's not my speech. That there are card games to keep security awareness among developers, and I would mention that there is a Microsoft thing, elevation of privilege, EOP, and now there is an OWASP card game. It's called Cornucopia. Please use it with developers. So do your homework with incident response, because you will be hacked sooner or later. An important question, I wouldn't skip it. Where are the resources? I think that the resources are in the corporate ethical hacking budgets. So companies spend too much for pen testing and other audits, which ends up claiming that how bad applications are and that developers are stupid. But so it's badly spent money. Instead, relocate money from audits to trainings and other proactive stuff. I focused on developers today, but actually I also criticize ethical hacking and auditors as the second part of involved people to blame. What about small and medium businesses? Small and medium businesses, they complain that they cannot afford for application security competence. My saying is that it's not true. You can always rent security specialists at the critical moments of development process. For example, at design and setting up your testing environment, please call a visiting CISO, delegate him decisions, use Microsoft SDL methodologies, appoint security champions in teams, and take courses. What you can say, small and medium businesses developing software. Well, my last slide is that so when developers are synchronized with the processing of the security issues, so when developers are synchronized with processing of security issues, security becomes absorbed into the production and ceases being a hated requirement. So let's focus on these few developer brigades who are disposed to improve. That's my message. Thank you very much. If you have questions, then please. If not, thank you very much for your attention. It was my pleasure to talk to you. And thanks to Jim.
Okay, so I'm a developer.
Oh, question.
Yeah. Okay, question. I am a developer, and I came here first time to see how I can improve my knowledge of security, to see how my apps can be attacked, for example. And I wanted to address one thing you shown, for example, Scrum. And from my experience, people working in Scrum methodology are expected to deliver they work fast without much insight into security, because that's what the project manager expects us to do, to deliver functionality, and the rest will come maybe later. And from my personal perspective, because I'm doing my personal project, which I wanted to be safe, safe rather than secure. From my perspective, for me, it's very hard to trust tools, to trust open source tools, because I don't have any viable documentation. And even some payments providers don't provide good documentation telling me which things can go wrong. So I have really big uncertainty. I try my best to limit the possibilities, but still I have. Thank you.
Well, I didn't get what actually was your question, but. No, it was important what you told, that actually it is one of the biggest problems that business, and that's what I wanted to say among the root causes of the poor state of application security today. It's management, and because management of clients, I mean clients who are paying for applications, because the functionality and the deadline, these are the two things that are paid for, and not only paid for, but the legal part, the contracts. So if you have a contract with your client for supplying a software, then you have probably no requirements regarding security. I don't know what is your case.
Sorry, that was rather my insight, not question. So I just wanted to defend the programmers, because I don't know how many of you here are programmers. Maybe hands up, who is? So really few. And I think from my perspective that my friends more or less know how to do secure authorization, but they don't know how to secure very complex systems which are distributed throughout the world. That's the problem, in my opinion.
Okay, but then shortly, I think that my message was call specialists. So when it comes to security questions that are beyond your competence, and it's not your problem, because it's not your specialty, probably, then an involvement of a security specialist has to be included into that project from the beginning, in my opinion. So it wouldn't be expected that developers knows security. If you say that your friends know how to do authorization properly, it can be true in most cases, but probably in several important cases, they will lack some knowledge how to implement in that case. So my advice would be still to pay a security specialist to participate in the design phase, and or to audit, but to audit not in past time the ready software, but to audit the design of your application before it gets developed.
Okay, I'm so sorry, but we have to finish now. So thank you very much again.
Thank you.